You know, I was testing some camera things and trying to figure this out. Is it better if I do it from this angle or if I do it from the angle where I'm actually looking over one of my monitors? When I look at it this way, I see things very direct, but I can't see the chat. So I have to kind of glance over for the chat. Does anyone have any opinion on any of this? Does it matter? I guess that's the question. Does any of this matter? Let's pull up a couple things I wanted to talk about and get that out of the way. I'll wait for some comments to roll in and see if there's opinions on this of which way the camera should be facing. Actually, I was pulling up really old photos of me for something I'm working on. If you're wondering what's in the background over there on my screen. So that's the thing. That's actually the first thing I want to talk about is site updates. And I guess this is where things get a little bit tricky if I do it this way. So we can present, share screen, and you know, there's actually more than one way I can do this. Let's do it this way. Might look better if I did it this way. Thanks, Chrome, for giving me notices I don't care about. So let's go ahead and present, share screen. Oh, I have to enable sharing. Hold on. Always these details. Edit name. Well, maybe not. Let me read the chat before I go any further. I listen more than I watch. Camera angle is good for me. When you get those hexagon panels in the background, if you look at my studio tour, you'll find a link with all the parts in it, including the hexagon panels. They're on Amazon. If you type in hexagon sound panels, you'll find them. But the link to the exact ones I bought, you'll find if you look up studio tour, which I'm getting ready to do a new studio tour, but the old studio tour has all the parts for everything in here because there's a lot of little things that people might be interested, like my keyboard, my desk mat. I have like a full parts build for all of this. It's so I always try to document everything because that's one of the problems I run into is not just like the idea of how to do something, but also what parts were they? What's the exact model of something that you have? And I'm working on my Home Assistant video, which to me, like there's a lot of great people doing Home Assistant videos, but the problem with them is like they don't always list the parts they used. I like the tutorial, but I don't mind reading a tutorial, but I really want to know what lights worked well with your, setup. That's to me like a huge thing. Let's see. New here, so you look after. Oh, no problem. I don't mind. If you look, there's actually a kit.co link in all of my descriptions. It should be in the live stream as well. If you look at my kit description, everything's broke down with different videos for what parts were used in different videos. I got to go through and update that because occasionally, this is just an Amazon problem. It'll link you to something that doesn't exist in Amazon anymore. Well, it'll tell you unavailable. It still exists as a landing page. It just doesn't show that part. But from there, you can usually figure out like, oh, they've now changed the model number a little bit. But I try to make sure all of that is somewhat well documented. Why won't it let me share the screen? Let me try that again here. Because it should let me share screen. Oh, now it worked. Well, kind of. I have to add it back in. Anyways, the part I wanted to share anyways is this. You can check this out. This is on my site right now. This is a new update, and I'm working on putting together the question people ask all the time. How'd you get here? What was the history? Now, the site's going to keep brief like this. I don't really plan to add anything more than a video to the site. And that's kind of my goal is to be able to have, like that question gets asked a lot. I don't usually do what I call just a self-indulgent video where I talk about just me. But I know there's enough people, and I'm one of those people who are always interested in how someone got to where they are. That's an interesting topic. But because it's an interesting topic, doesn't always mean it's the right topic for me to figure out how to put it on my channel. But I will make one that pairs with this right here. And I'll be very clear in the beginning of that video. This is not a tutorial. This is how Tom got here. Here being the present day when I record the video. And this will be the whole history of everything else. So yeah, it is one of those questions that comes up a lot. And I like to do fun things when I can to make it a little bit more graphical. So, I put some of my childhood, when I got my first computer, when I got my first tech job, which is actually 1995, my first sysadmin job, where I wasn't just fixing I fixed some business computers. Then we go to 1998, 2000, 2003, when I started my business, Suburban Electronics, launched PC Pickup, started the YouTube channel, new location, new studio, stopped my retail back in 2019. So it's just all that. Worth noting too, I've got a newsletter I'm launching. So that's, I guess it's a little self-promoting for me to say that, but hey, it's one more thing I got going on is the newsletter. People ask about being able to catch up with things I'm working on. I plan to do a newsletter twice a month. So that's 24 newsletters a year to just have a list of videos and a list of things I might find interesting that you may find interesting as well. So that is the goal there. Let's see. Someone asked a question. Hey, Tommy, your Thursday live stream, you and Jason talked about advanced layer 3 features that in UniFi. Is a Cisco course the best way to learn this stuff? I would say Cisco course is a good way to learn it. The one nice thing about if you go through, and I'm parroting this is not my own personal experience. I've understood that a lot of people find great value in the Cisco classes, not just because you learn Cisco, but because it'll teach you networking. So the answer to that is yes. Cisco always covers all the fundamentals of networking in a lot of their stuff. So you should get a more rounded education, understand layer 3 routing better by achieving some of the Cisco stuff. Actually, I'm trying to figure out who I'm promoting today on accident. I get cups given to me from vendors, and this is all accidental promotion. My tea is apparently I'm shilling for whoever MSP CFQ. Is that what they're called? I don't know who they are. There's someone who gave me a cup. I will shill for my friends at Huntress, though. Oh, got to do this so it focuses. There we go. I love their Breaches and Brews events they do. There was beer in this when I got it. It's just water now. And yeah, but learning the networking. See, one of the challenges I have is I'm not someone who's ever done. And one of the things, it's not omitted. It's the fact that it doesn't exist. And I'm going to cover this when I make the video. But when I talk about my story, if you follow along with it and you realize my first tech job was 1995, I graduated high school in 1994. I did not go to college. I didn't really like high school that much either. I didn't do well in school. I didn't like going to school. I always spent time, like I was a kid that skipped school to go to the library. I like reading a lot. So I spent a lot of time in the library. And that's why it's harder for me. Like I don't have a history of taking structured classes ever I've done like a couple training things. Like I recently did a Ceph thing with 45 drives, but I don't have a history of structured learning. I have 0 certifications. I never even bothered really with any certifications, like pursuing them. So I always parrot what I know from other people, but I know some of those certs are really helpful for other people. So I do recommend them. I mean, it comes down to whatever learning method works for you. That's always how I look at it. Afternoon. Those are secrets of your life the guys are looking for to compromise your life savings. I'm missing some context on that. FYI, your website footer, the orange join conversation button has white text so you can't read it. Really? Orange join conversation button. Oh yeah. Oops. That was working. So I will thank you. I will definitely, so people, I see what you're talking about now. I don't know when that broke. Here's a question. Is it broke on all pages? Weird. It just broke on the mouse over. That's okay. Thank you. I will now fix that. It's always fun finding these little things that are wrong with stuff. What are your thoughts on ACI learning? I'm currently taking basic scripting course. Seems very engaging. They also have networking courses and certifications. I think they're a good place. I've got an affiliate link that I think still works. I haven't talked to them in a while, but I've heard good things about them from a lot of people. I've talked to the instructors there. Overall, my impression of the people there is very good. And from that, now, have I done classes? I surveyed a couple of them. I never really pursued any of them that deep, but I went through a handful of advanced tutorials here and there when I first started with them. Before this is one of those things, before I'll have someone I work with for an affiliate link or some type of promotion, I try to make sure that like it's not crap. So I went through them, a few of the courses, and said, this is pretty good. I think my son went through a couple of them because they gave me a few free users to test it all out. And we were probably going to do it with my staff as well at CNWR. We used to do it at Lawrence Systems, and then we kind of got away from it. We want to bring back some of that learning at CNWR now. So we're trying to find a good one. And we're probably, the top runner right now is the ACI learning. It used to be I want to say Tech TV, but that's not what it was called before then. The CSS is borked. Yes, that always happens. CSS gets borked. That is a challenge for sure. Now, something else I've been working on is an updated review of this. This is cool because I can share two screens. There we go. IT Pro TV. Yes. They're using the former set of Tech TV, which is pretty novel. Let me make this a little bigger. But I've been testing the VPN support inside of here. There we go. I've got the UniFi Express set up in here for VPN. And one of the things that I realized, and I got to log into the UniFi Express. Let me pull this up next. Get this pulled up. There we go. This is a feature they did not have, but now works, is proper policy routing over WireGuard. This now works. Now, I don't know when it started working. I know the last time I looked was a long time ago and it wasn't working. And I'm really happy that it's working. I'm not going to say impressed. Impressed would be the wrong word. Relieved. This is the challenge I've had with UniFi, is they keep these features going for a long time that they're on their roadmap. It takes them a long time to implement features that should have been there on day one. UniFi went like the long way around to getting normal networking. They're like, let's keep reinventing everything. Let's keep trying to do things in the weirdest way possible. Let's take the VPN, not force you to cloud registration on our devices. Well, first they did. First, you were allowed to not have cloud registration. Then they forced cloud registration. Then they took cloud registration away. But if you wanted your VPN to work, you needed cloud registration, which made no sense and made people angry. So now they're back to using VPN without cloud registration. My problem with UniFi is the roadmap makes no sense. And finally, they've come back to like, oh, I guess people just want a VPN on their firewall. You think? You think people might want a VPN that just works? Well, we got that. And then they finally added some policy routing. And now you can actually VPN, WireGuard site to site, and then policy route to the other side with certain services. And I'm like, wow, this is like innovation. Well, not really innovation, just you went back to normal. You put the feature in that actually people were asking for a very long time. And after you did everything the hard way by building it in the clouds, you finally just said, oh, I guess we can probably remove the cloud component and just let people do it. Now, I think Teleport's cool. I got to look because I guess they released a Windows client for Teleport. Teleport's novel. But the thing they're lagging behind on now is if people want to use something, and TailScale being in pfSense is huge. So I think that's really cool. And that's another great feature that they have on here. well, in pfSense, but they're lacking on the UniFi. Maybe they'll decide to integrate with some of those, or that's kind of that's gravy. It's not what I would consider a core need, but cool that they've coming around to that. As an MSP, would you secure access to all customers' firewall using SSH and TailScale NetBird or Office Data Center firewall for the VPN? NetBird has not gone through a full security audit. That is on their roadmap. The one thing about any of these is making sure any of these companies have gone through some level of security auditing. I believe TailScale has. There's a little piece I need to research going forward, but I'm pretty sure there's some security reports you can find for TailScale. Don't publicly expose SSH, please. That would be bad. Put everything behind more hardy VPNs. I think TailScale, being the bigger company, probably has gone through, and they're more mature. TailScale has been around long enough to be well secured. I think TailScale is not a bad option. The downside is you don't necessarily want all your clients managed by TailScale on the same network unless you build out the rules properly, because if one client gets compromised and they're all on the same tailnet, that compromise then could lead to your other clients. That would be terrible. So definitely not a thing to do. I think I might do an updated video. We have one on business technicalities, but I might do a more technical one on this channel. It's called the client protection matrix, and it's all the tools we use. Now, these are commercial tools. These are not, free open source tools. They're a lot of the commercial tools we use to manage all the security for our clients. And because we have an RMM and we have Screen Connect, and we have Auvik, we have ways into our client's network without setting up separate things. So let's, something to think about. As an MSP, would you secure? That's the same question. Shame your market cap, enormous sales, and rather haphazard direction. It's a shame they don't, they're not brilliant on a core bunch of products. Yeah. So in essence, what are some of the benefits of talking out loud? The way I can observe reading this and wasting. In any essence, what are some benefits of talking out loud? I don't know. I'm not sure what you're asking. Maybe you're trying to waste my time. Did you ever get free range router, use the virtual router OSPF, BGP? Is this basically router Linux BSD? I don't use that. I don't really, for what we do with our clients, I don't really have use for this. But I know the VPN in certain countries don't get commercials when watching YouTube. It's strange to me. Any insights? Yes, that's actually true. You can look it up on Reddit. There's a talk about that someone posted. I forget that someone has a list inside of Reddit of where you put the VPN, so you get. It's because there's some commercial problem with YouTube. I'm not going to say it because YouTube might demonetize my channel for mentioning it. But if you look on Reddit for this, I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out. Just put SSH in anything but 22. Don't put it. If you think hiding on a different port will fix it, no, you're wrong. Don't publicly expose SSH, please. That's my ask. Now, you can call me out because I probably have some lab stuff that has exposed SSH when I'm setting it up. You can call me out on that, and I will say, yeah, you will not find exposed SSH, or if you do, let me know, because it's by accident on other infrastructure we run. Travel router seems to be quite a few videos we're into, but how secure are they? Seems to be a fork of OpenWRT, but can't find the issue. I don't really get travel routers. I talked about this on my live stream. People get excited about them. I just throw TailScale on my devices when I travel. That's been my solution for the last year. I have TailScale. I like TailScale over OpenVPN because of the convenience of it being an always-on VPN. Not that I find OpenVPN not to work well, but if you have your phone and your laptop and you want them to talk to each other, you can have them talk over their tailnets. And that way it's not round robining over to your house. So if I have a couple devices and I want them locally to talk to each other, or I have devices kind of scattered around on different networks. The nice thing about having something like an overlay network, TailScale, or I recently reviewed NetBird, it gave people an overview of it, I should say. I like the fact that it's just an always-on VPN. It's always there. I can always rely on the tailnet existing and the clients talking to each other. And after a year of usage, it's just so seamless. I don't even think about it. I understand if you don't want to answer what made you merge with CNWR. Did you get bored or just wanted a bit more hands-off role? That's actually something that is documented on my site. I have two things. I have a whole video on it about the merger. So let me throw that back up here. But if you click on the My Story on my site, I outline it right at the bottom. And let me zoom in a little bit, make it easier to read. But yeah, yes, I did not want to run the business anymore. I got burned out running the business side. I love tech. After 20 years of running a business, I was fine not to run a business, because the bigger the business gets, sure, you make more money, but then you have to deal with business things more and more. I just didn't want to deal with the large scale business things. They just don't interest me. They are a drag to do. And they drag on me and make me go, oh, I don't want to do this. And if I find myself not wanting to do this, I ask myself, why am I doing it? I don't have to do this. Matter of fact, for a moment, I said, do I sell it? But then that would change my channel dynamically, because my channel comes from lots of real world experience. And if I sell my business, I lack the real world experience. But I mean, I can be a Homelab YouTuber because I like that stuff. And I have several friends that, have experience in Homelab and a background like I do in corporate IT. So I thought about that for a minute, but I don't know. For now, I want to remain active because I really enjoy the community. I enjoy working in the IT services space. I have a lot of fun. It gives me a lot of insight. I get to play with all kinds of really expensive things that I didn't buy. I have a video I'm going to be filming on Monday or Tuesday with like a couple $100,000 worth of equipment, because it's fun. It's not like when Linus Tech Tips does some super expensive thing that was sent to them. These are real world projects that customers paid us for that I get to engage and interact with. So that's essentially why I merged, is so I don't have to think about the business side as much, but I can still participate in the tech side and maintain control. If I take a job somewhere, someone's going to put some duct tape over my mouth and tell me what I can and can't say. That is off the table. That is, I am very much my own person after running a business for 20 years, and I don't like restrictions on what I can and can't do. I wouldn't do well with those. WireGuard, anyone had problems with tunnels? Not reconnecting issues. No, I find WireGuard extremely reliable. Thoughts on CMMC, i2, FIPS, Cha-Cha 20? They're popular. You have to say more than thoughts. Regarding WireGuard, do you want to have problems? Nope. So I wonder what 24 will bring in the tech space. Ubiquity. Yeah, interesting. Thoughts on how secure backups in a Homelab keep encryption keys on a piece of paper? I have a few of these. Let me see if this will. We can do this. Can we focus close on it? There we go. These are the hardened US. Whoops. It's kind of hard to open. There we go. Oh, I can't explain that one. Oh, the sticker fell off. Where'd the sticker go? Anyways, these are extra backups. I keep them in there's a rotation of them, offsite and fireproof safes. These are Lux encrypted, and they have my actual backup keys to decrypt things, because anything that's stored offsite is encrypted before send. So you have to have your full tabletop plan. So putting them on these really solid, tough USBs, they're called the Survivor Series USBs. They're solid. They're waterproof. They're supposed to be shock proof, and they come in this really fancy, you twist them together and I got a weather seal on them. But I like these. I have a few of them because I don't want one copy. I want multiple copies of all my keys kept in separate locations that are not here. And it's all my encryption stuff. Yep. Nmap finds, will find SSH no matter what the port is. Shodan finds SSH no matter what the port is. RDP as well. I've never used OpenVPN Cloud. No thoughts on it. Absolutely don't play the alternate ports game. Yeah, more people saying that. TailScale versus Zero Tier. I've done a video on that before. I could do an updated one because TailScale's gotten faster. So that's a big thumbs up for TailScale. They've done a lot of updates to the open source Go implementation of WireGuard. Therefore, they've gotten faster. Travis likes TailScale because it just works. Getting kicked off a cab call. I'm using OpenVPN on my barrel router with Verizon 5G. Works great. Be pretty good bandwidth speed for VPN. You can run SSH on all servers, though root should not be allowed, only a private key. REST accounts limited. Yeah, I prefer to keep it not exposed at all. So are you part of the leadership team, principal architect? Yes, I help do solution. I'm not the only one, but I'm among the people who are on the leadership team and solutions design at CNWR. I test tech and ideas, but they ultimately get approved by Jason Slagle's president. So he is the ultimate yes or no guy for things at CNWR, which I'm fine with. Me and Jason get along well. We actually think a lot alike, and we agree on a lot of the solutions. You don't find me and Jason at odds with each other because we both think of things in a secure way. We get along really well. It's actually been 6 months later. It's kind of interesting because we learned, well, people around us have learned, oh boy, we have another Jason, and my people like, oh, me and Jason have a lot in common. So the people around us are like, okay, those two just seem to like, we can half finish sentences and know what we're talking about. Does swap size affect ballooning and small memory size Linux VMs? I imagine to an extent. MSPs will need to be CMC2 certified by every 3 years to handle clients with CMC contracts. All closed servers need to be RedRAMP. Yeah, we're actually, Jason is on the board for Trustmark as well. So we're working on Trustmark. We're got to do CMMC. Eventually we'll have probably at some point we'll be, I'm thinking we're going to end up SOC 2 as well. We're going through all those different ones in all the different frameworks at CNWR. So that's definitely stuff we're working on. Let's see. WireGuard on mobile devices is flawless. I've always used WireGuard before an overlay network unless I need it. For a late fly, I just checked that every single SSH server they have exposed says Lotion Droplet Crowdsec says 50 lines poured, 50 attempts, and last restart, 76 time updates. How much does QAT benefit pfSense VPN compared to AES, IPsec, EMB? I think they have some numbers on their site. I don't know. I'd have to do, modern processors are so fast. I'd have to do some testing to tell you how much faster. There's probably someone who's done the testing. I haven't really, it's not something I spent a lot of time in. Usually the challenge with VPN isn't whether or not they have QAT. It's whether or not they have enough bandwidth from the ISP. Especially here in the US, I think we run into ISP bandwidth more than we run into limitations of the VPN. Because people are like, oh, cool, I got a VPN that can do 1.2 gigs, but I need it to do 1.8 gigs. What's your internet speed? Well, I can't get over 100 meg. Well, I don't care how fast your VPN is if you are stuck in a situation. Now, there are, of course, very large corporate clients that it does matter in, but for most of them, it doesn't. What is the right Netgate product for 1G, 1G fiber? I think the 6200 to be fine for that. Is there anything special with the $300 UniFi cable modem? I have no idea. I haven't really looked at it. Is Jason open to new clients in pfSense? Yes. Yeah, Jason's very open to pfSense clients. The reason CNWR was not doing, I can't say no pfSense. They weren't doing much pfSense. They were doing a lot of Meraki because they didn't have any team members that were really as trained as we were. And I say we because there's several people that know pfSense. It's not just me. they didn't have enough pfSense people. Now they do. And it turned out one of their guys already knew pfSense pretty well, and the other one picked up on it really fast. One of the other network engineers there. So now we have like 4 or 5, maybe 6 of us, 6 techs, I think, that know really well the pfSense platform. And a few of us know the really advanced stuff in there. Like I don't even know if that's HA is considered advanced. We've all gone through it so much now, it feels mundane. But yeah, we've got a good team now that all knows it. Jason knows it. Jason was already running pfSense for some of his own equipment. So Jason himself knows pfSense. This is the thing you have to make a decision as a business owner is, do you do the things you know how to do? And also, can you level the techs up to it? Like, I'm more of a Linux guy, but you notice that we're not pushing for a lot of Linux services because most of my team supports a little bit of Linux and a whole lot of Windows. Jason doesn't just know Linux. Jason actually wrote a book on Puppet. So if he's actually an author as well. And when you start diving into things like Puppet and automation, you're like, awesome. So you guys sell a lot of Puppet and automation? Not right now. We have only a couple of techs on staff that know as much as Jason, but he's got a history of building large-scale infrastructure managed by Puppet. So you have to decide, there may be what the business has versus what the owners know. The services you offer, it's a lot. How do you anticipate meeting requirements across your stack? We will. Our stack is compliant for all this, so that's really not a big deal. Thanks, QAT. You can run down the rabbit hole if you want something in particular. I've got an Atom-based unit, QAT. CNWR, are they more into the partner space? I don't know what that really means. I guess. Jason is an expert in BSD. Yes, Jason was one of the I think he was the Puppet maintainer he maintained Puppet for BSD, but yes, he's old school BSD as well. Was wondering about, because I have many TrueNAS doing replications and always get SSH failed logins. Seemed not to be a big deal. A wild network Chuck has appeared. Hello, network Chuck. How you doing, man? Nice to see you wandering into my live stream. Network Chuck knows how to bring the enthusiasm to the tech. He's definitely can be fun. I'm excited though, because he's got that sneak peek. It's been a long time coming. I know a little bit more than I can probably talk about, but Chuck's working on a 45 drives, which, by the way, I'm wearing a 45 drive shirt. So yeah, I'm waiting for that. He did the teaser video, and I know he's slowly getting around to bringing us the full video on that topic. So that's definitely exciting. What I mean, partner space is NetApp, HPE on that space. No, they don't like HP or NetApp any more than I do. So they were running before and continue to run TrueNAS. TrueNAS runs part of the colo where a lot of CNWR services are hosted. So between the colo and they have a lot of hosting they do. One of our clients is partially managing a data center. I can't say the name of the client, but I will say it's big enough company that you heard of. Definitely big enough. And we manage a lot of that stuff there. And the back end of some of that's TrueNAS for some of the things we do. So Jason already knows TrueNAS. It was already running things. We are more this is why the alignment for our merging of companies made a lot of sense. We're like, oh, look, you know the same things we know. Can Cat 6 cable riser run without the divider inside so we can Cat 6? Lowe's is selling a 1,000-foot box of Cat 6 riser without the internal divider. I imagine. I don't think it needs the divider, but I don't know. I'm not. Well, I have a whole video where I consulted with the person who ratified Cat 6. His name's Dave Barrera, and you'll find that video on my channel. It's from a couple years ago, but I mean, the Cat 6 standard hasn't changed. I don't remember if the divider is necessary. I don't have that information in my head handy, but I don't think it is. I think it's needed for Cat 6a, but I don't think it's needed for Cat 6. But please fact check me on that by looking up the standard. Hi, Tom. USG and a cloud key. Need an AP and PoE switch. It makes sense to get a UniFi Express and AP for future VPN projects. It's a small 500 square foot space. USG and a cloud key. I need an AP. I think the UniFi Express is a good deal. it'll route at 1 gig, but I noted the limitations. It only has UniFi networking. The cloud key actually has UniFi Protect on there. Do you need UniFi Protect? If you want UniFi Protect, you're gonna need something like a cloud key. It depends on if you go, no, I don't need that. I only need the network application. The UniFi Express is fine. Hopefully caffeinated. And I see Chuck says 3rd cup today. People thinking network Chuck for the content. Help me with putting virtual machine in my laptop. Awesome. You know, it's always good to see. This is a discussion that came up on Twitter just the other day, is just talking about all the knowledge being dropped. YouTube has become a pretty amazing place for the tech community. And, you know, Network Chuck's part of it. It's about getting people more into tech, getting people enthusiastic about it. That's why I do all of this. This is, you know, earlier discussion. Why did Tom sell his split off? I didn't sell because I still own Lawrence Systems. So Lawrence Systems became a media production company that produces all this content. And, you know, I love getting people into tech. I do YouTube for that reason. Like, I have a good career that pays me really well, being an IT person, owning a business. But the fun I have is giving in-person talks sometimes. Jason's actually doing a big talk on reverse engineering at CodeMash. If you're not familiar with CodeMash, I'll be there. I believe so. I got to buy my tickets, but CodeMash is coming up. And I love doing things both online, in person. Online's easier because I can reach more people. It's, you know, hard to have a conversation with 200 people on a Saturday morning from the comfort of my chair, but I can right now. There's 200 people on the live stream. And Chuck, if you ever want to join the live stream, just reach out. I do these a lot. You know how to contact me. Hi, Tom. Thanks for all your videos learning SSH key management. Do you have recommendations about how to store and back up SSH keys? Do you sync things to keep them backed up on TrueNAS? No, because my SSH keys don't change. I specifically do not have them on TrueNAS. I have my SSH keys. Earlier, we're talking about storing things on encrypted drives. This is where there are backups of my SSH keys. I do not like them anywhere because they, well, have a lot of power. My SSH keys are how I'm able to get into all my different servers. Now, there's a password on my SSH keys. So, you know, I've got the key plus password set up, so it's extra secure in case the keys ever do get compromised. I at least have to have the security that someone has to also know the password to them. But if I find out in any way they're compromised, I'll start, you know, rolling and building new keys and redistributing them. But keep those keys very, very secure. In Europe, we have fiber directly to the home. We don't need ONT. Do you have any recommendation on ONT? Not particularly. Maybe someone else does. Spectrum is rolling out gig over cable. Nice. End of jam, I understand, for UK arrival for the UniFi Express. Yes. I don't know exactly the rollout dates, but yes, they are rolling it out more. You and Network Chuck got me going, building my own pfSense router. Yes. Chuck did that good video on pfSense. Got a lot of people excited about it. YouTube and labbing is how I learned to base tech skills. It's been awesome. Don't forget that like button. Yeah, the like button helps. Love CodeMash. What an awesome conference. Good. We get some people who know what CodeMash is. I've learned a lot from YouTube tutorials the past few years. Having trouble finding hardware for a small 10 gig pfSense router, at least 2 SFP plus. Does this even exist without DIY? I mean, the 6200 exists. The 8200 exists. Those are both Netgate devices with SFP plus. So, I mean, you don't have to DIY it. Maybe. So, I'm sorry, I said 62. I mean 6100. Whoops. We'll throw this up on the screen. But, I mean, right here, right from Netgate, and it comes with pfSense Plus, and it's got SFP Plus on it. Any particular topics you're planning on diving into in 2024? Data center stuff. I have one primary one that I use. I don't necessarily generate one for every single server because you don't have to. Thoughts enabling auto update and UniFi for remote sites? Yes. Don't put it on. Well, when you're doing the updates, one thing I will say is do not. Maybe, where is this at? Don't choose release candidate. Choose official, and you should be fine. So I have no problem leaving on official. I don't mind. I have mine on auto update for release candidate because this is my lab. But if it's not lab, don't do that. No, I have not implemented SSH user certificates. Maybe one day, but that's not a today project. But here's a spicy topic. Let me pull this one up. I don't know if I'm gonna do a video on this. Someone says I'm just spitting in people's eyes, but let's just break this down a little bit here. And I'll share a link to the crowd here so we can all be on the same page. And share this tab. I don't know if this is going to make a video or not, but I just wanted to have a link because so many people keep asking me, because I've talked about this a few times. People keep telling me, but Tom, isn't the security better on OPNsense because they have more updates? And my answer to that is links to their forum posts of how slow they are on security. First, OpenSSL 1.1 is no longer supported, and systems must be upgraded to support version 3, fixed pfSense Plus November 6th, fixed in pfSense CE November 16th, and on the roadmap, but still not fixed for OPNsense. If I can't, every time I bring a pfSense, people ask me why I'm not doing OPNsense. SSH Terrapin, fixed on December 18th, fixed in December 28th. Took them 10 days to get the fix out. 10 days is not a real long time, I'll admit, but still, people trying to tell me that I'm wrong, that OPNsense updates security faster. That's not true. TCP spoofing vulnerability, fixed on December 7th, and fixed on December 12th in OPNsense. And the weird thing was they didn't fix till December 19th in the business edition. So the business edition actually lags behind. The other thing is a lot of people ask me about why I say OPNsense waits for things to come downstream from pfSense. And that's actually really simple. This is the Netgate sponsored fix for things. People don't understand the ecosystem very well, that OPNsense is pulling from FreeBSD. Netgate is pushing to FreeBSD. Netgate is one of the major code contributors to it. So when I say OPNsense waits for Netgate to fix something and then pull it downstream, that's what I'm talking about. And it's not, these are all facts. This is not like an opinion. This is not like some subjective, I just don't like it. This is the facts. And I link to each of these facts in their own forums, specifically the OPNsense forums, the pfSense forums, the OPNsense forums here. OPNsense has public disclosure about when they talk about these. And I'm going to compile probably, I think there's a few more, but I'm just pointing out the fact that they generally are behind. And this is like my response to that. Because it seems like anytime I bring up, and it's becoming less in the live streams, but boy, there's a ton of comments on there that I should stop doing pfSense videos. I really need to do OPNsense videos. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this. There's lots of updates that don't make sense to me. I don't know why they update so much other than, there's new packages. So they update them to whatever features. But for firewalls, security is number one. And it seems to be lacking, or at least lagging behind in OPNsense. Yeah. Well, this is part of it. Someone said, and it's kind of complicated, but yeah, if Netgate stopped doing anything and stopped contributing, stopped existing, you would lose all those contribution firewall updates that go into the BSD. Now, people's answer is, well, if Netgate didn't do it, someone else will. That's kind of wishful thinking. It takes businesses to employ people. Kernel developers are expensive. They happen to have, I think, 5 of them working at Netgate that are BSD kernel contributors, not like part-time BSD. Netgate pays them to contribute to BSD. And when you start going, oh, okay, so who's going to pay these people a good wage, which a good kernel developer is going to make $170,000, $180,000 a year? Someone's got to make their payroll and then have them update FreeBSD. And this is where it's just kind of a headache, so to speak, to figure out how that works if Netgate doesn't exist. Is this the pfSense versus OPNsense? People will always be upset. For more people will make their own. For me, empower people to make their own decisions. Well, so I just drop the facts. I'm not here to give an opinion of what I don't like one or the other. I'm here to show you the facts. That's why I put all the links in there. You are repeating the OpenSSL all the time. It doesn't make it more important. Second, I saw yesterday movies with, I don't know what you're talking about. Nothing is perfect. Make your own decisions. I've had a look at it. Doesn't do for me. Sophos XG does layers. Yeah, the layer 7 stuff doesn't happen in pfSense. So if you need layer 7, I don't recommend pfSense. Even I don't understand why so many want him to move to OPNsense. Yeah, the number of people, like every day in the YouTube comments, every day on those pfSense videos, there's someone else making comments of I should stop doing pfSense. I need to do OPNsense videos. I'm like, there's other channels doing it. Go watch those channels. Netgate made some bad decisions. That's a sad fact indeed. There are many companies that have done the same. Right. Here's one of the things, when I walk down memory lane of firewalls, I did this in one of the videos, and I don't know if this makes another YouTube video, but I made it in the Homelab show. Me and Jay walked through all the history of dead firewalls. All these projects kind of share one thing in common. They didn't have a good business model around it. They didn't have a way to support the ecosystem. They didn't have a way to support development of the product, and it went away. And this is why we used to have lots of firewalls, and now we have very few firewall options that are open source. There's very little out there anymore because unless you can put a really good business model around it, it just kind of fades away. Netgate put a business model around it that allows it to work, and OPNsense relies on pfSense updates to pull that downstream because OPNsense isn't contributing back. They're just pulling down, and everyone likes their free firewall. And they do sell hardware. That's how OPNsense funds it as well. I think they're more popular in Europe because I've never once seen any of their hardware here in the US, but that's how their business model works. I mean, they have some business subscriptions as well, but I find it weird, as I noted, that it took them a couple of weeks to fix a security issue in the business version. But they seem to have a lag behind on how they do the business updates. But either way, it's just kind of the facts of the matter. I like answering people's questions because they keep asking them, but now I made a link and I just am going to reply with that link each time they ask the question of what I'm talking about when I talk about security. The lack of drivers for some network cards. What network card issue are you referring to? Because, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Netgate is the one who wrote the drivers that, because at the time went into the newer version of BSD. So about a year ago, Linus Tech Tips did a video talking about using OPNsense because he needed a driver. If I'm not mistaken, Netgate did all the code commits for the driver, but at the time, Netgate was in release candidate to get to FreeBSD 14. Therefore, that driver wasn't available. But the driver actually was written for both 13 and 14. So OPNsense, because they were based on 13, had it, and now pfSense has leapfrogged them to go to BSD 14. So now they have it and everything else. So far as I know, there's not any. Well, I mean, Realtek, but the Realtek is less a driver support problem and more of a Realtek is crap problem. Yeah, and this is exactly it. If I'm not mistaken, if you look at who wrote the Netgate, who wrote the drivers for I226, you'll actually find it was Netgate. Once again, OPNsense benefited from that coming downstream. And this is actually why pfSense jumped all the way to 14 for their base for the OS is going to FreeBSD 14, because that way they're on the cutting edge all the time of the things they're committing. At the time, pfSense, OPNsense was on 13 while Netgate was on 12. So the OPNsense people got the driver before them, but they got it because Netgate wrote it. This is that circle I'm talking about of how the sausage is made. So if Netgate doesn't write the driver, or if Netgate says we're not going to participate in the open source community anymore, then what do you do? Because they could just write, they have the developers, they could just write the drivers for themselves and not give it back. And then OPNsense would, dry up. This is kind of a problem. It's just it's a big circle of, there's not really an easy answer to this. Lack of drivers is only an issue if you're trying to run a system on kit that isn't really up to the task. Realtek just belongs in the bin. We'll definitely say Realtek belongs in the bin. Realtek and Broadcom 10 gig cards are just a headache. We saw the problem earlier this year for a client. They had a bunch of problems. It turned out to be their Broadcom cards. I told them not to use Broadcom. They got a deal and started using Broadcom. I didn't really check what they used. They asked me for advice on hardware before they built out everything, and they went with the one I didn't tell them to use. They later switched it to Intel chips, and all their problems magically disappeared. I've had some weird bugs with Broadcom, and it's just like they link at 10 gig, but the performance over time is very inconsistent, and especially around virtualization stacks. The Broadcom drivers just kind of suck. Mellanox are fine. I haven't had any problem. I think I have some Mellanox cards. I have some Intel cards. Both of those seem to work great. What is it? The Connect X4? I think those. Well, didn't NVIDIA buy those now? Doesn't it? I think it's an NVIDIA company now. But either way, yeah, Mellanox are nice. If you can tell a server if a server spectrate if it still have the Broadcoms. Yeah. Dell shipped a lot of those as well. It was some Dell servers that I've definitely seen these in. I'll swing it back because there's so many people here now. I do have a question, because this is I'm going to work on the video to cover how I got here. And with that story, how much detail goes into it? I don't know this answer. So I have this on my website, but how much detail are people interested in? Because it's usually the live stream where people say, "Hey, Tom, how'd you get here? When did you get your first computer or whatever? How'd you get it working in tech in 1995?" My video will expand on each of these on here, but is there some level of detail I should go into? That's always the question. Stopped all retail operations, split merge with CNWR. I have one more card to add at the bottom, like what I'm doing today. But yeah, if someone has some comments they want to throw in on that, that would be great. This is one of those things that I don't know the answer to. I got to fix that though. Small bite-sized chunks. Bite-sized, yes. Hey, what happens if I switch? Okay. It's kind of neat. I actually have two buttons now because I can control it from this screen and that screen. TLS 1.3 is a problem now for some systems. The bigger problem is going to be the EHLO, the encrypted hello. EN0 IP. This is going to break things. Let me pull this one up. Yeah, encrypted hello is what's really going to break things. TLS 1.3 makes it harder. If things are properly encrypted, they have to have a certificate to see it, but your SNI header is not encrypted. This encrypts the SNI header. The SNI header says, what website are you asking for? Because part of the certificate process, and I think they probably have a graphic in here somewhere. Here we go. One of the challenges is you have to ask for a certificate. So how do you ask for a certificate if a server can host multiple certificates? Well, you say, server name indication. I would like to go to launchsystems.com. Please give me launchsystems.com certificate. It responds with the certificate. But that means if they start encrypting that part of it, suddenly you don't know what website someone's going to. The only way to do it then is going to be installing a certificate to break the security. And so, yeah, it's a headache. Have you worked with MeekerTick environment? Any opinion on it? MeekerTick is cheap, inexpensive, has a steep learning curve, and not so great documentation, but it works. It kind of has a niche following of people who like the WISP market, for example, seems to use a lot of it because they don't work on big margins and the equipment, will get the job done, and they pack a lot of features into a small device. Downside is the learning curve can be pretty steep and the device itself can be a bit quirky. I think someone said it best. There was a quote maybe it's in my forums, but someone said, MeekerTick is that device that you'll find some weird answer of some incantation that doesn't make a lot of sense, but by copying and pasting out of that post, you'll get the device working for some reason. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. It's a tricky question, sure. I'm always sure the deep details understanding can become long-winded, which some folks don't like. I'm all for it, as I find the details interesting. It's like I said, making that video is just kind of a self-indulgence, so I'm trying to figure out how deep I should go. Just looked at Realtek. Wow, $79 billion in revenue. One of the things that I kind of laugh about a lot when people are talking about, looking at revenues for things, for example, does McDonald's have the best hamburger because they probably sell the most hamburgers? Are you trying to make a McDonald's hamburger? Is Realtek the McDonald's hamburger of the networking world? We sold the most. Does that make us the best? And I don't know if they actually sold the most. I don't know if that's really quantifiable by just looking at their revenue numbers. But yeah, there's a lot of companies that are big. Doesn't mean the quality's there. If you look at tech education, the amount of technical education on YouTube is absolutely impressive. TikTok's bigger than YouTube. Does that make TikTok a better platform? Because, man, I will tell you, there's plenty of it on YouTube as well, I guess. There's a lot of bad and misinformed tech education on TikTok. There's good education as well. Numbers don't tell the full story. MeekerTick, making easy things awkward and difficult things random. Yeah. I don't know. Did you ever have Ferrari, Honda? Honda sold a lot. Honda and Toyota. Toyota's still, I think Toyota is one of the, where does Toyota fall? Like, they're in the top 3 for probably vehicles sold in the US. And they're pretty big globally too. Oh, VMware post Broadcom deals. Yeah, definitely. They're making a disaster. Well, they're going to make a bunch of money. And my guess is Broadcom will milk it for what it's worth. And they'll figure out a happy balance of how much more they can get away with. They're just going to keep turning the knob until they get enough money out of it. And once people start to leave, they'll dial it back a little. It's a game they play of how do we extract as much value as possible. Looking at my next 10 gig switch, XCL TP-Link MeekerTick have been on my radar, but haven't pulled the trigger yet. Yeah, I mean, the MeekerTick ones are definitely budget friendly for sure. I mean, if it's between Proxmox or VMware, I'd choose Proxmox. But for me, it's not between Proxmox and VMware. I prefer XCP-ng. Sorry, got the hiccups. XCP-ng is my go-to. Hello there, and a quick thanks to Broadcom. Yes. Not a thank to Broadcom network cards, but boy, a random Oliver Lambert. He is the head of Vates and the XCP-ng project. Check out. Their latest post on all the new features for XCP-ng. They just keep making it better. We are me and Jason. We decided a while ago, but this has now hastened things. The way that we're actually, I have 3 people at CNWR that are, is it VCP? What's the certification for VMware? Whatever that is, I don't have it, but they're all VMware certified, and they're all angry, and they're all, we're holding classes to teach everyone at the company that does technical things XCP-ng, because we're doubling down on it. 2024 is the year of XCP-ng. It's been on the roadmap that we've been pushing it more and we're using it more, but we now have to get rid of some of the VMware stuff. Matter of fact, the way their new licensing works with their partner program, we will be in violations of licenses if we don't migrate everything. So we are doing a full, like, some of the stuff that's in our colo is going to be moved over to XCP-ng as well. So yes. Yeah, perfect timing. You just wandered in while I was talking about it. So a downside to using a layer 3 switch for instead of pfSense for VLAN routing, the problem is your layer 3 switches aren't always that fast. So if you need inter VLAN routing at speed, what's faster, the switch you buy or the pfSense you have? The problem with a lot of them, MikroTik, and I don't know what models do and don't, a lot of the MikroTik, they're like, hey, we have layer 3. Then they're like, oh, by the way, it's all CPU bound and it's not very fast. So your pfSense may route faster in that situation. Mostly, if you need speed, don't put those things on separate VLANs. You're probably doing something wrong. One of the problems is people try to route storage. Don't route storage. I've got a video about storage design because we solve that problem for people when they go, oh, I should put my storage on a separate VLAN and route it through my pfSense, and then try to figure out why I'm having all these quirky issues with my insert name of hypervisor using target storage across a firewall for some reason. Top 3 reasons to use XCP-ng. I would say scalability, stability. The stability on XCP-ng is amazing, and the integrated backups. So there's a quick top 3 reasons. Just fired up a new server in XCP-ng. Tried it after watching a video. Always use Proxmox or ESXi in the past. Really liking it so far. You know what though, Travis? You could just watch my YouTube videos and learn. But we're going to have a sales training meeting on XCP-ng too about how to sell it. That's coming next. Just running in general, as I don't know, is the migration from VMware to XCP very difficult or involved or relatively easy? They've actually wrote some tools. XCP-ng has a VMware migration tool. Actually, this is when they started doing it. Let me figure out. They have, try to find the latest blog post on it. Oh, here we go. But yeah, they've got documentation on how to do that. They have migration from a few different things, but they have XO to V2V. So this is from VMware. They got a whole write-up. They got an import tool. So yeah, this is actually a built-in feature now. Kind of helps make it pain-free. Yes, definitely doing this very soon. Updated XCP-ng. I'm hoping to get that done maybe in the next couple weeks. Because strike while the iron's hot. The VMware thing has lots of people upset. What distribution XCP? Proxmox is based on Debian. XCP-ng roughly based on CentOS, but it's all supported by the Vates team. Yep, they built that. I virtualized my pfSense, so there's not an easy, simple way to pass your PCI cards and single Ethernet ports in XCP-ng, so that's a no-go. I don't understand why people are so wanting for XO Store. I do have a video on using CloneZilla to migrate VMs as well. That's a completely another solid solution. Yeah, CloneZilla makes it a lot easier to do. I also should pull this up. This one, I have a lot of XCP-ng lab servers. I'm excited for this. This is getting a lot better. This is the whole XO Lite system. This is it's very beta still, but this is going to be the new look for XO as well. And I think this is pretty awesome. Because this is a good way to kind of get things started in XCP-ng, but it's, like I said, it's still not completely, this is not completely finished just yet. But this is going to be the new look, because this is the current look of the full version of XCP-ng, or I'm sorry, full version of Zen Orchestra. Well, technically, this is the self-compiled one. You can see all my netbirds I've been playing with. Netbirds and TailScales. But I'm thrilled with it. I think it works beautiful. I'm going to do a before I do the get started video. My video I'm actually doing next is how to self-compile this. That's something where this is the free version, self-compiled. Which I'm 2 commits behind. We did a live update on Thursday. There's still 2 more commits since then. Hey, thank you very much for the donation. Much appreciated. No, I haven't made anything specific about migrating from Proxmox to XCP-ng. Why do you need vSAN? That's my question. Force refresh. Okay, I'm willing to do that. See if this got the latest version now. Let's try this. I can open it up in another window. Maybe it'll... I will try XCP-g a few weeks, have VMware and Synology virtual backup on it. Locks up the server snapshots quite often. I don't use Overt. I don't really have an interest in it. Do you have a complete bare metal disaster recovery video for XCP-ng? No, but I could make one. Well, yes, I do actually. I have some backup videos where I talk about how to recover it because it's really easy to recover systems. I will say this is true. People are oversold on hyperconverged infrastructure and for licensing reasons. I don't always think they need it as much as they think they do. And I think it was sold to make more margin. Xelator using version bundled XE 8.1. Yeah, I'm using what's bundled in 8.3 because this is a standard 8.3. So this is the system I'm doing it on, and I think here. Yeah, this is just XCP-ng 8.3. When you have a new XOA video, will you touch on the advanced feature script like touch encrypt SSL automation? Yeah, that's why I need a new video. There's actually a lot in there. I wouldn't do the Let's Encrypt. So the package wasn't updated yet. Okay, just the online JS. I'll have to play with that then. I'm excited. If you have a post in your forums about it or want to DM me the instructions, I'm more than happy, because I would love to, once it gets a little more feature complete, I would certainly love to do a video on XO Lite. A lot of people are excited about that. What backup solutions do you use for XCP-ng? That's really simple. All the backups are built into XCP-ng. So this is one of the things, and I have a video talking about how the Xen ecosystem works and how Xen works with XCP-ng and how XOA works. And one of the things about this is having the fully integrated backup solution is huge. This makes, it's amazing how fast this can run. So for example, right now I have Chasm running right here. And if I wanted to run a backup of Chasm, so you can see the VM is up and running. Let's just go kick off a backup real quick. And I have the backup specifically telling it to shut down. So we can say, shut down this job. It's going to shut it down, restart it, do the backup, and we'll see how long it takes. And this is just a little mini PC that this is running on. So it's got to stop all the services that are running. Grabs a snapshot. You'll see this count change to 2. Now the VM is booting back up. Now I don't have to take it offline to do it. I chose to do it because I want it at a stop state. But watch how fast it's going to do a full Delta backup of this. And by the way, this is not connected at 10 gig either. And the backup's done. So if we go back over to our backups and look over the history of them, we just transferred 1.36 gig. Here's the backup report. And I've got a whole detailed video talking about some of the other fun things you can do. Like, for example, if I wanted to validate that this backup was good, I can actually do a restore health check on this. I can actually do it to restore it, have it reboot the VM without the network attached to confirm the VM can boot from this image. Like, that's all integrated in here. The backups are amazing and a huge selling point on there. So did you link to online version? Awesome. Perfect. Just had the 2 mini PCs delivered, so I think XCP is going on one of them. If you DB Tech's one of my creator friends, and has a lot of great videos. And if you need help, just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. My friend Raid Owl, as you know him on YouTube, he also did a video on XCP-ng. I'm slowly getting my friends into it. I need XCP-ng system to drive an array fail issue with UID. Trying to recover individual VMs are incredibly easy. Does a backup get offloaded to another system? Why, yes, it does. That's actually one of the beauties of this. When you go to the backups on here, you can have backups that are NFS, SMB, or Amazon S3. So anything that you can attach an NFS share to, or you can attach a SMB Windows type share, your standard CIFS file system shares, as long as you have access to a NAS of some sort with those, or I guess you could copy it over to a Windows box if you needed to. And they're not in any weird format. I mean, they're in a format that is special, so to speak, to Xen Orchestra, but it's not a proprietary format. If it's easy enough to just point the system right at those and pull the backups back. I have a whole video diving deep into how the backups work as well. Would you build a DC Colo 24 using XCP in a host cluster of TrueNAS on a single bulk storage server, run containers on the TrueNAS, or in a VM and XCP-ng on the host? I would not run any containers on TrueNAS, but that is a relevant build. Matter of fact, this is what we're building right now at CNWR. So I'm not just saying I would do it. We are going to put XCP-ng in our colo. When you manage a backup in XO, will it go through it or handle all inside the XCP-ng host? It goes through XO. So that is something it does do. Which SSL search to use with pfSense? Let's Encrypt. You know, this is someone asked me before about using something other than Let's Encrypt, and my answer is why. Like, I'm partial to Let's Encrypt for all of my SSL needs. I've been a big fan of it a long time. I actually have friends that work at Let's Encrypt. So if I get stuck on something when I'm doing a video and then I'm stuck on a certificate, I actually can ping my friend. I have his cell phone number if I need support. I don't abuse it though, because he wrote a lot of the stuff for Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt I have the utmost faith in. Is there a free open source utility that is quick and simple to check what may be slowing down a network? I mean, yes, no. NetData works really well. I love NetData, but you have to have NetData on the host to try to figure out what's going on. What's slowing down a network is a extremely broad topic. It has to be narrowed down to figure it out, because your switches will have a lot of good insight. Your firewall usually has a lot of good insight. Sometimes, though, you have to do some Wireshark and look at the packets if you don't have anything that's capturing packets. Is there an auto boot delay in XCP-ng so VMs boot in a specific order? You can. I imagine some people probably do have a use case for this. So you can take a VM, you can say auto power on, and then you can say, where's it at? It's an option in here somewhere. I'm pretty sure there is. Infinity, GPU, RAM, boot firmware. I think this might be something you have to set from the command line now that I think about it. Because you can auto power on. Oh, duh, it's right here. Startup delay in seconds. So yes, I'm looking right by it. This was added. I don't think this existed years ago, but it certainly exists now. So you can put in a number here. So many seconds. So when this host boots up, this will delay 30 seconds before it starts. I don't need auto power on for this. But yeah, that's an option in here. So if you back up with all retention periods, replicate to a storage mirror, and then back up to tapes offsite. Yeah, yep, that's all possible. You can, send it off to whatever you want and back it up again. It's just files. So there's nothing weird about the files. They're not in a weird as I said, not in any weird format. It's just an NFS or SMB share. You send it to the NFS or SMB share and then do however you want to do to back those up. If XCP-ng got VM integration sorted, they would pull huge amounts of IT departments in. Maybe. They may pull a bunch of huge departments in and don't want to pay the VM licensing. That's an alternative option. I would say actually internal IT, it's really only a problem in the MSP space. It's not a problem in the corporate IT space. We have a very large corporate client, very big company that uses all XCP-ng backups. I actually have two of them now that are like big companies with thousands of virtual machines, and they use the XCP-ng backups. It saves them any VM licensing at all. They actually built their DR plan around using XCP-ng. So it's one of those things, like if you're going to get the backups anyways, you may as well have it. Now, where that's a problem for the MSP space is managing all those backups from one central dashboard. Yeah, that's a challenge. And that's our problem in the MSP space is how do we manage, if everyone was using that for all their hypervisor backups, how do we manage visibility into all that? We got some ideas we're working on, but that's not fully flushed out right now. So ACME and pfSense are a separate Linux VM with certbot. I do it all inside of pfSense. 90 days certificate life versus 12 months. I very much predict this. All certificates are soon going to be 90 days. That is being pushed for, and I think it will happen. But my certificates auto-renew. If you're not automating your certificate process, you're doing it wrong. Automated certificates, that's the solution. It's not about the expiration. It's about the automation. I know my certificates expire every 80 days. I have 10 days ahead of time that all these are renewed. So I don't, every 80 days, I get a new certificate. It's automated. I don't even think about it. I did have it get stuck once over 5 years of running it. And it wasn't even in pfSense. pfSense has worked every time, but I did get it stuck on my website. I don't know why. All I had to do was restart the service. Some weird thing happened where a service didn't restart. One time in 5 years of using Let's Encrypt on my website that I can remember that being a problem. Yeah, just like Oliver said right here, you can use the Veeam agent inside. That's our current solution for people who really, because of Veeam. But yeah. Oh, that's actually interesting too. It's possible using VApps as well. There's all kinds of little interesting topics I could make videos about with XCP-ng. I really want to dive into making a new series with the 8.3 and all the changes. We support UniFi Dream Machine, HA, and UniFi VPN. One issue you're having is that the IPsec site-to-site doesn't put STS for the VPN server to connect to the STS. All thanks to UniFi All SHA-1 non-configurable. Yeah, UniFi does not give you the best options for doing things or troubleshooting a VPN. Good morning from Canada. Thank you for all your videos. You made me switch from ESXi to XCP-ng with confidence. I wish you and your family a Happy New Year. And a Happy New Year to you, Simon. Yes, XCP-ng is both open source and has full support if you want to buy support contracts and licensing and SLA agreements. This is one of the reasons we are so bullish on XCP-ng is it's very similar in functionality to VMware with a lot of the features, kind of like how the vSphere and vMotion works. They have their similar features, the way they do resource pools, but the other side of it too, it's fully open source. So if you want to use it in your home lab, have at it. If you want to say, I want to use it in my business, I like a full agreement and support and automatic, delivered updates through the XOA system. They have that too. And they just released some new bundles for how they do the support. I have a key for auto renewing certs that expire after 90 days. Yes. Gotta love companies that are okay with everything breaking once a year. Yep. I've never used the Proxmox backup server, so I have no thoughts on it. I think Jay from Learn Linux TV did a video on it. Automated cert works fine in pfSense. Agreed. Sort of scripting side or other SCP out to share certs, then picked up on other systems. Yeah, there's actually scripts inside of pfSense. The ability, I should say, to attach scripts in pfSense. I've seen people do this. Like they want their pfSense to get the scripts and then also have those certs copied elsewhere. You can build that. They give you essentially the cron hooks to do that. So you can build a script, tie it to cron, tell it to update the cert, and after it updates, run this thing so you can get those certificates pulled over to somewhere else. So it's definitely something you can do. I've had certbot running since 2015, never had a cert issue at this point. I don't even remember how to set up a cert. Yeah, I do remember. I remember hating it. I remember having to do all the signings and everything else and all the silliness around it. I don't know. I just thought it was a hokey process and I was happy not to do it. My video on pfSense with the ACME cert is super easy. Follow my most recent HA proxy video. I cover how to do auto cert renewals. Have you had experience with Ansible, Terraform, or XCP-ng? Main reason for me to stay on VMware is integration with those. I don't have personal experience with it, but you can go in their forums. They have Ansible and Terraform support. I've heard of Nutanix. It's just taking a bunch of open source and gluing it together in a closed source way. I don't use it. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Some people say it's expensive. I don't know. I've not had much direct interaction with it. It exists. It's definitely a commercial. It's definitely a popular commercial option. It's not as popular as VMware, but they're seizing the moment as well, because Nutanix is on probably a lot of people's list as well, just because it's been around for a minute and it's got commercial support, just like XCP-ng does. Terraform provider Ansible plugin with Packer. Packer, I think Jay from LearnLinks TV has a video on how to use Packer to create updated images and templates, but yeah. Easy methods to store UniFi Protect videos externally using RTS video stream. Don't want to store it in my SD card or in my Dream router. I don't know any easy way to do that. No, I've never tried. This is one of the reasons I use Synology, is because they actually let you back up all your videos. I think UniFi does a nice job with their systems when it comes to the NVR, but once again, it locks you into their ecosystem, and it has a couple things that people have been asking for that I don't know what's on their roadmap for actually putting it together, like as so you can like export videos or back them up, because this is a really common ask with people, and it's one of the big stoppers when they want to use a UniFi NVR but have backups of all their data. I'm sorry, that's not a native feature in there, so we steer people away from it. What is XO Lite Online? XO Lite is going to be basically the Lite version of Zen Orchestra, and it's going to run directly on the system, and it's all basically a really fancy web app. It's really cool how they put it together, and it's going to be like the light version to get basic functions of VM for people who want to get things up and running fast. That's one of the reasons I got to do a new video, is I kind of want to wait till 8.3 is released, or at least XO Lite gets more developed, because it'll be a big talking point on how to get started with XCP-ng. I want to try and make it as clear as possible, because XCP-ng having two components of XCP-ng being the hypervisor that runs on the host, and XOA being the orchestration tool, or XO if you're not calling it. XOA is the appliance, just XO is the orchestration tool. That's why I did my explainer video for how the architecture works. Once you kind of get your head wrapped around the architecture and you get it deployed, it starts making a lot more sense. But that first step is always going to be the toughest. Sorry, I have to go. Chuck says I have to learn TMUX right now. Is he still here? Did Chuck release a video on TMUX? Oh wow, he did. He just did a TMUX video. That's awesome. Yeah, TMUX is great. I love TMUX. I think you should learn TMUX right now. Blue Iris is still the go-to. Blue Iris runs on Windows, and that's why I don't like Blue Iris. In an ideal world, I'd like to get the online version available if you have internet connection. Otherwise, going to have the package version offline working. Because you do, yeah, some of the air gap customers. Literally 1 minute. I just looked on YouTube and I see Network Check dropped a video. Awesome. Good to see he's got another video out. I personally dislike Chuck's presentation style, but I can thank him for finally explaining Docker to a pleb. Yeah, that's one. Well, the nice thing is, Jay from LearnLinks TV has a TMUX video. I have a TMUX video. Network Chuck has a TMUX video. There are 3 potential people I just named, and I know we're by far not the only ones out there with TMUX videos. So you have the option to figure out what learning style you like, and whatever person you want to learn from, you have a lot of opportunities. This is why I really like YouTube so much, is it's really become a cool ecosystem for a lot of us out here to do some learning on things. Well, Chuck definitely presents more technical than Linus. That's one thing about Linus Tech Tips, is he's not that technical. He's become more entertainer and kind of, this was a debate on Twitter just the other day, for example. And this is not really a dig. It's just the path they chose is different. People want to do, you look at people like MKBHD or Jerry Rig Everything. They're asking if they're the top tech YouTubers. They do a great job on phones and some of the home tech. but calling them a tech YouTuber is accurate, but inaccurate if your goal was to learn TMUX. MKBHD is not going to do in any time I can imagine a video on TMUX. That's still a tech YouTuber if you're doing a TMUX video, but it's a different type of tech. It is a more technical one. So you kind of have to subdivide the tech category to the maybe Linux tech YouTuber or people who are teaching infrastructure. This is where things get really split up a little bit. Like we've been talking for the last 15, 20 minutes about virtualization. That's not something I don't imagine there's a world where you watch, jerry rig everything or MKBHD switch from phones to virtualization topics. It's just not what they do. Techutainment, but there's still value in it. If I want to know, KBHD's got some really good videos. I think his Cybertruck video is solid. Like I was curious about the Cybertruck and I think he had the best video on it. And that's simple to me. Like, hey, his video, awesome. I think Jerry Rig Everything would probably do a good video on it because he did a good video on the Rivian vehicle. And that's still technology that I have an interest in, that a lot of people do have an interest in. So they're not really techutainment. There's still tech knowledge that is interesting. I feel like Linus and the like are putting a lot of false ideas in the heads of children and young adults. False ideas in the heads. I don't know what that means. They are tech YouTubers, but not really. I prefer to Homelab videos. Yeah, that's more what I'm into, is like the Homelab and teaching people about some real deep fundamentals. But you got to think about it this way. The deeper you go into tech, it's kind of like a reverse pyramid. If you're surface level, you're at the very top and the pyramid goes down like this. The people go, this seems fun. I want to watch it. Let's get technical, more technical. The audience narrows down. If you go all the way into someone, if I started talking about, and I don't write assembly, but if you go all the way down to someone writing assembly language, you get to a small, very niche audience of who will actually want to take the time to learn assembly language. Same thing with networking. As I go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole of really, esoteric things or details of how virtualization servers work, the audience narrows down greatly versus if you go surface level, you get more people. So it kind of takes a whole ecosystem of tech YouTubers, someone to get you excited about the tech, someone to get you a little further in, and maybe another person to, get you some more details. People ask why I don't do a bunch of like networking 101 videos. And I'm like, there's so many people doing networking 101 videos. I don't need to. Well, I could do it for the views, because if I did some more basic videos, I get more views, but those audience members won't stick around because a lot of people just want that surface level knowledge. It's not that hard to do pass-through on this. At some point I don't need it that much, but I know enough people do. As a matter of fact, even in Proxmox, you still got to spend a lot of time going through the command line to get some of the Proxmox devices working. But they have pass-through. It's just not in the web UI. You just got to go to the command line. But after watching Jeff from Craft Computing cover Proxmox pass-through, I realized you got to do it in Proxmox as well in a lot of circumstances. I did love a Cybertruck video, really depth. You say Network Truck did a VPN kill switch completely incorrectly. Yeah, I don't audit Network Truck stuff, so I that's the thing, because he's not usually covering at the same topic as I do at that same level. But I don't always have time to watch or see if someone's very correct in all the videos. I have a home lab with 2 hypervisors currently using local storage. Explain possibility also add shared external storage. What are some redundancies? So 2 machines. Recommendations. I mean, do you want to build a Ceph system? That's one option, but that's a complicated one. You could build it with A pair of Synologies. Synology is actually probably the least expensive way and least troublesome way to get that started. Gluster exists, but if you're going to take the time to learn Gluster, I would learn Ceph instead. What is a false idea? You're right. You're right. That's confusing. I guess giving them a false thing that being entertained means learning something useful. LTTs and similar audience are very broad, have appealed to a huge range of views to make up the revenue. Going into detail means lower figures. Yeah. Yep. See, I think someone said, wow, Gamers Nexus had a really long video on like the Linus controversy thing. And my instant reply to my friends when they said that, I'm like, does Gamers Nexus know how to do a short video? I mean, that dude's detailed, and it's not a dig at all. It's the fact that the dude is detailed. I don't really watch much Gamers Nexus because I'm not into that type of hardware much. But he's popped up a couple times because he's very detailed on that stuff, and I think that's great. There's obviously a demand for it. Gamers Nexus, he built his channel off being very detail oriented on the things he talks about when it comes to that. I think that's great. Yes, it's Oliver, and yes, he's a normal person. Tom will never make a regular. I suck at regex. If you want to know all my regex secrets, you'll see that you could just look at my chat GPT history. That's even when I wrote my stuff for, if it's on my GitHub, the regex I used in my GitHub that drove my Greylog video, I wrote all the rules and I gave them away because I know people would like the rules I had because if they're helpful to me, they might be helpful to you. I'm very clear. I use ChatGPT to write all of the, I think they're in Grok. They're not all, the regex is, Grok uses a form of regex, but it was easier to do it in ChatGPT. You're right. You won't find it, but I'm always willing to tell you how I did it or give a shout out to whoever gave me the resources to do it. From my understanding, reading the documentation for XCP-ng, you are forced to pass through the entire PCIe card. While on Proxmox, you can easily pass through a raw device like a single Ethernet port. I don't think so. Regex is a craft. I remember doing a lot of regex 15 years ago. I stopped, and I'm a more sane person. So my friend who works for the Linux Foundation, he can speak in regex. You either figure it out and it becomes something that is just absolutely you're good at, or you're not. And it never clicked with me. So you're right. It either just clicks one day and you can think in regex, or you cannot. And I am on the cannot side of that. How easy is migrating VMs from ESXi to XCP-ng versus Proxmox? Been looking at both. I would say it's way easier to get something out of ESXi and into XCP-ng because they have an import tool. If you scroll back a little bit in the video, or if you just search, XCP-ng VMware import, you'll find the tool that exists to make that work. Did ChatGPT improve your work? Yes. What is a good entry? What is a good entry to a good home network? Tired of the ISP provided Zyxels. It has a weird dropouts. Been thinking of something high-end gateway router with 1 or 2 APs. I actually like the UniFi Express. It's basic, but for a lot of people, it's far better than what the ISP offers, but the learning curve is not too bad. So UniFi Express is your base level, and I might do that as a follow-up video. Like, hey, what's a good budget home setup? Because I'm going to put the UniFi Express top on that list. Myself, bigger learning curve, but I do prefer pfSense. But that's not for everybody, and maybe you don't even care about all the things pfSense can do, and it's not something you really need. Yeah, regex GPT is a thing as well. If you can't I think it's your motherboard, have enabled something to force break devices, individual devices, instead of grouping them. Nice, perfect. A bit behind on your videos of my installations. Hopped on this morning, saw your live stream. Do you normally stream on Saturdays? I try to do it in the winter a lot. I don't do it as much in the summer. So I learned a great phrase, and it's called productive procrastination. I have a few things I'm supposed to be doing, but this feels productive. So this keeps me from doing the other things, but I still feel like I'm getting something done. I've been building out my studio and I kind of got stuck. I don't know what I want to do next, but I'm building out my studio. But I said, I just sat down and said, I'm going to do a live stream. Because this is the picture I used for this. This is what my studio looks like. I'm sitting where the chair is right now, but this gives you an idea what my studio looks like. And I'm building more and more of it right now. And my productive procrastination is switching over to doing a live stream and talking to a bunch of people and answering questions. Liking the UniFi router? Yeah, I know, but the UniFi router works pretty good. They've actually come a long way. I have a bunch of Mac Pro 2012 with me, successfully installed XCP-ng on it, but dropped due to the power consumption concern. Is it okay to go with that? I mean, find newer hardware that uses less power. I mean, I like XCP-ng, and I have it on some small mini PCs that don't pull much power. I was looking at UniFi. Can you run VPN on UniFi? This is the problem. Yes, but, big but. How much VPN can you run? Does it have the VPN you want? You have more VPN options in pfSense. You have some VPN options in UniFi, but is some enough for you? That's where the question is. And that's why I got to do an updated video kind of explaining that. They finally added a lot of things like policy routing and site-to-site with WireGuard, kind of, but they've added these features in, but there's still some things missing. Someone earlier talked about the way they do IPsec being a little bit weird. Yes, you have fewer options, but those options might be enough for you. So I got to kind of put a video together on that. You can have a 4-port Ethernet card. 3 ports are passed through to pfSense, 1 port to a small TrueNAS VM. Very productive procrastinator as well. I mean, Proxmox and XCP-ng are just Linux underneath. So if you could do it in one, you can probably do it in the other. Also, I guess it depends on how you want to do it, because you don't necessarily have to pass. When it comes to network interfaces, there's 2 different ways to do it. XCP-ng does have some support for SRIOV. There's that way to do it. And SRIOV support's probably in Proxmox as well. So that might be a solution, but you have to look into it. It kind of comes down to how your use case is. UXG Lite, or if you're less than 1 gig stream router, you can get IPS. I don't think the IPS is all that effective, but yes, you get it. What is the best way to deal with an office with Wi-Fi set up with a multi-tenant building? I mean, is there more tenants than SSIDs where you could use a UniFi system? So UniFi works great, but you have a limited number of SSIDs. Do you have more SSI? Do you have enough SSIDs to meet all the tenants? If not, you could just set up separate ones for each floor. I mean, I don't know if there's a best practice, so to speak, other than we've installed a lot of these. We've done both scenarios. We've done large scale apartment buildings, but we also had them where they've only had a couple tenants and it didn't really matter. We have one of them that has a VLAN that matches every tenant office in their suite numbers. That one was actually pretty easy. And then we just provide internet. Well, we're not the people that own the building, but the way it was set up was we provided networking to each one of those tenants with a separate VLAN, a separate range, and then it was up to the tenant to figure out how Wi-Fi should work inside each of their offices. How does one benefit from connecting pfSense to HeadScale? You can use, it's all the benefits of TailScale, but HeadScale is just a self-hosted head end for that. Can all VM and pfSense network be available to HeadScale VPN? Yeah. Why not just use a dedicated bridge to VM rather than pass it through the network? That's what makes more sense to me. For me, OSPF implementation is silly in UniFi because experienced users don't know what that actually did. Yeah, if you need OSPF, you don't want UniFi. We'll just leave it at that. I need a glass of water, though. I'm going to be right back after I get a glass of water and after I find my countdown button. Where's it at? Oh, here we go. This is my be right back button that I'll throw up on here. So yes, I'll be right back. I mean, when setting up my own company's Wi-Fi, how do I get the best results with all the floors, tenants, brassing? Oh yeah, this is one of the reasons I tell everyone to hardwire things as much as possible. That's just something you're gonna have to deal with. You try to set it to the channels that they're not using. But when you have a big office building or apartment building filled with lots of Wi-Fi noise, your Wi-Fi experience is going to be lessened. So let me swap over to now that I found it. I'll be right back before this is over. Back. Oh, let's see here. Install Windows on his PC. Oh, let's see. Ooh, OpenBSD, and then my Wi-Fi would quit working, right? You like my be right back screen? Build a Faraday cage. That's a good answer. I've never used any Alcatel switches, so I don't really have an opinion on them. If anyone's wondering, though, here's a couple more images of the studio. I'm getting ready to, like I said, do an update video on this. I post this on Twitter. I'll do an updated video, an updated tour, but this is like to give you an idea of what it looks like from where I sit. And I built all this. If you look at my old video on this, I got a whole lot of details for all the things I built. But yeah, when I look, there's two different ways I look at things. This is the teleprompter that I have right here, but I usually look at things on the big TV right here. But these are the lights around me. This is the camera that's over the monitor. This is the camera that I'm pointing at right now. But gives you an idea what it looks like behind the scenes. These are the monitors I have. And there's my little space heater because, yes, I'm in the basement. Give you an idea. But I have a whole, like I said, a whole tour on what this looks like. If you have any desire to learn about networking at all levels, UniFi is the last device that comes to mind to me. I mean, no, UniFi is not going to teach you in-depth networking. It makes networking easy. Should you be concerned about the health impacts or radiation from Wi-Fi APs, particularly more powerful UI ones at home? No, it's not the same type of radiation. There are no known problems at all with the type of radiation that comes off of those devices. Any tutorial I can follow to make all my VM and pfSense network available to TailScale, HeadScale network? I don't know I don't understand your goal. So probably posting in my forums would be a good start because I don't understand the goal. Because you're in a video file to make TailScale VM network. I'm trying to access IPs inside my pfSense network. I've got a video on TailScale with pfSense, and hopefully that video is enough to get you going on it. But if it's not, post to my forums. As a home user, what are some underrated pfSense features one can use? I don't know that any of them are underrated. I have a video on setting it up. I think home users, if you don't need the VPN features that are in pfSense, you don't need the advanced routing, you don't need to be able to capture packets easily. You know, when you start really diving into all the details of pfSense, if you don't need those features, I don't know which one would be relevant to you. So what's on the big screen right now? Kind of me. Me and you and the comments are on there. That's why I can look this way and see the comments and look this way and see the comments. I don't know which way they're easier to read, but that's on there. My HP home NAS server hardware no longer boot. Can we have a moment of silence for an 80 terabytes of data in limbo? Yes, we can. Is your studio in a basement? Yes, it is. So what flood mitigation plan do you have? Dual sump pumps. But we don't really have a flooding problem here. My house is, so when I stand in my basement, my feet are probably, my waist is at the street level. My house is up on a hill and it slopes down. So when they built the house, they brought the dirt up and then put the basement in. So the house isn't that low. So there's not really a flooding potential here. I forget how many feet above the closest river. So I'm at an elevation. So flooding's not really much of a concern. Typical Linux guy sits in basement. Absolutely. You're not wrong about that at all. Ever have issues with tagged, untagged networks? Untagged networks go full speed. Tagged networks at 100 meg. Nope, never had that problem before. My guess is you've messed with the MTU. If I see a problem like that, I'm going to go with check your MTU settings on one of the switches because it's probably cutting some of the packets improperly. And so you probably have an MTU problem somewhere. XCP-ng question. There's some reason the web interface is so limited and requires center to do any real management or tweaking. What can't you do that you use XCP in general? I don't recommend anyone use XCP-ng center, but I also don't know what you're trying to do that you can't do in the XO interface. Probably need to run a TailScale client on each device. That's definitely one way to solve your connectivity with TailScale is just load it on all the devices, but maybe that's not possible. It kind of depends on what you're running. He's not getting a glass of water. He's dancing. There's a chance of that. Not really. I don't dance. Is it possible to use one public IP and two pfSense access separate ABOs in two pfSenses? You can't have one public IP on two devices. Mostly USB pass-through. That's only two things not common. Yeah, not many people ask for USB pass-through. Hi, Lawrence, the system in question. What are the most recommended rules for the firewall for small business greeting? I have a video on that. It's called pfSense for Business Setup. So I've covered that in detail. They're pretty simple. Hi, Lawrence Systems. I live in Southeast Asia. I want to dive into 10 gigabit networking. What are the options here limited? What do you think of MikroTik switches? There's a learning curve with the MikroTik switches, but they're very affordable. So once you get over the learning curve of figuring out how things work in them, they work. They seem to be pretty reliable. I've got just a couple that I've ever used. I have one in my lab. I keep it on for testing reasons. It seems nice enough. I mean, it functions, but the interface I don't think is great. But then again, once you get them set up, you don't spend a lot of time in the interface. You usually get the interface set up and then that's it. Besides doing it for videos and labs, I don't spend a lot of time in switch interfaces. Spent quite a few hours tracking this issue down. Pretty sure it's an issue with Realtek NICs. Oh, if you have Realtek NICs, you've answered your question. I'm sorry. Realtek is bad. Yeah, USB pass-through for Z-Wave or Google Corral. I actually have, this is an extra one, but this is the Z-Wave stick I use for Home Assistant. This has been on my desk because I want to do a Home Assistant video, but haven't gotten around to doing a Home Assistant video. I have Home Assistant on another one of these. I have two of them. This one was at the office and I forgot what happened. And it broke. I think the SD card went bad. So now we don't have Home Assistant at the office anymore, but we do have it here at my studio. Realtek NICs suck. You know, I had this problem with the Broadcom NICs suck as well. So here's an example. I was having really slow transfers, even though iPerf would show me 10 gig. Transfers of VMs across 10 gig Broadcoms were incredibly slow. All I did to fix the problem I was having, which I thought was a server problem, was swap out the Broadcom for some Intel 10 gig NICs, and they transferred at full speed, no problem. Broadcom and Realtek just, I don't know, race to the bottom. Would you use pfSense in front of a UniFi Express? No, I wouldn't recommend that. If you're not going to use the UniFi for routing, then buy one of their APs and use a cloud key. If you're don't mix it. I mean, I have a video on how to do it because so many people ask, but even at the beginning of that video, I tell you what a bad idea it is. Yeah. And right here's from the people rating the software. Don't use the Broadcom or Realtek. What can Home Assistant do? I love Home Assistant because it does everything for me. Home Assistant is the fully open source, non-cloud way I manage all the things here in the studio. So this is actually what controls lights. It's actually tied into my Synology. I have automations on here. Tells me the weather, sets the temperature for things. But if I turn off the shelf behind me or some of the, let's see, what else can I turn off? You see everything kind of getting dim behind me. It's hard to tell when it's small, but this is what controls all the lighting. Now you see a little orange glow behind me. This is also, if I hit this button, it turns on and off all the cameras, the studio computer. Actually, I don't need this camera on. I'll turn that one off. But if I turn this off, everything would go dark for you because it would actually power off the camera. But it's a really nice system for home automation. I've got my house lights controlled from it. Home Assistant's amazing because I don't like all this going to the cloud. This is all hosted on a Raspberry Pi right inside of my own network. So I don't even need internet for any of this to work. Well, this one's not the one it's on now, but it's on one just like it. So I have two of these. Oh, let's see. Home Assistant does everything Emacs can't do yet. Yeah. Why Home Assistant on its own device? That way, it's always on. One, Raspberry Pis. You can run Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi 4, which are pretty obtainable right now. And I think it'll run on a Raspberry Pi 3, but I'm using a Raspberry Pi 4. I like it on a low-powered device. I can shut down everything else on my network to save power, save energy, and the Home Assistant still runs. That's why I run it on a dedicated box. I know I convert, and I thought about virtualizing it. I like the idea of virtualizing it, but I like the fact that when I reboot any of my virtualization, anything I'm working on, or if I take it out or move my rack around, this being a low powered dedicated device that controls all my things means I can power things down and service them, and my Home Assistant and all my automations around it just keep working. That's my biggest reason for it. And the general inexpensiveness of having a Raspberry Pi. What I might move to, though, is I might buy one of the genuine Home Assistant boxes and migrate everything to that. I just want to support the project more. I donate money to them. I think they have a donate money option. I pay for their premium subscription thing that you can do. I just want to make sure I support that project because it is amazing. My garage is not on it because I don't want my garage on it. I like my garage offline. That's one of those things. If ever someone gets a hold of my Home Assistant, they could flicker my lights on and off, but it would be bad if they could turn my garage and make that go up and down. So I purposely don't want it on my garage. My wife has asked me though. She would like it on the garage so she can turn it because I have the phone app, and she's like, "Oh, then you can get control the garage from the phone app." And I'm like, "Yeah, but no." I mean, the phone app is so nice. My wife has her own dashboard so she can control things. I have a dashboard just dedicated so my wife can do things she wants to do on there. Because if I gave my wife access to the studio, she might find it funny to turn things on and off. Yes, you'll find a whole list I have of compatible devices. That's my big thing I'm going to be making in a video is the list of what devices work really well with it, which is going to include, pull this up on Amazon. I really like these Zeus devices. They work well. These are the ones I'm using for the studio switches. I also have, I have to look. I have a whole list of them. Maybe I can just pull up my, let's see here. Yeah, oh, yeah, Home Assistant parts. There we go. Here's all the stuff I've been using in my Home Assistant. I have some of these. This is the little Z-Wave combo. Some of the Honeywell switches and the Zeus ones. And the Brighton. There's other ones you can use, but I'll drop this link in there for people wondering. These are things I'm using with my Home Assistant. Medium-sized business, UniFi APs, but we use OPNsense for the firewall. What would you replace the firewall with? pfSense. Do you think UI will make it possible to dim blinding LED switches in UDM Pro or SE, or will this will it serve as neighborhood's lighthouse forever? I don't know. Probably. I run everything on Pis in my Homelab, all their apps in their own containers. Pis are awesome for this. Production versus test philosophy at work right there. Have you tried to bypass the ISP modem directly in pfSense, GPON fiber, SFP? I do that myself, but it's going to depend on each provider. For using SFF devices for a server instead, yeah. The problem with a lot of the old servers and why I don't even bother reviewing anymore is they're just so power hungry. The little mini PCs and the little Raspberry Pis are so efficient is the best way I can describe it. They're reasonably cost effective. They're efficient. And it just makes for, not having a big power bill. How'd you know your system was hacked? My house became haunted. Then I realized it wasn't haunted. Do you plan to set up Home Assistant with high availability? Nope. It's not that important. We used to put X10 remote power switch on the garage door opener to disable and then power away. Does qualify as two-factor? Yeah, possibly. In case of power loss, how do you make sure all systems networks get powered down sequentially? I don't worry about it. Oddly, the only thing I care about getting powered down is actually because the Synology is tied to the UPS, and the Synology shuts down properly. The other Synologies attached to it shut down properly, but that's it. The rest of them I don't care about. The reason about the Synologies is it takes a long time for Synology to do an integrity check on the, I have a DVA 1622 model, the one for my cameras. That one takes a long time to do an integrity check. And so I tell those to shut down properly. TrueNAS, pull the plug. I don't care. TrueNAS never has a problem when there's a power outage. I made a joke about how much you can abuse a TrueNAS system with ZFS without worrying much about data loss. It'd be better to set it up the right way, but I'm lazy and I don't feel like it. I mean, for businesses, yes, we do. For me, I don't care. When your SD dies a few times, well, you can buy high durability SD cards, or you can even put NVMEs on here. But yes. I want to run OPNsense behind my Asus Merlin. My OPNsense AliExpress box doesn't have Wi-Fi, so plan to run an Asus and AP bridge mode. Things to look out for? No. I mean, I would run pfSense instead of OPNsense, but that's just me. Currently using a ThinkCenter for all your Homelab. Tell me about the DS416 advantages to chew through for. Yeah. Yeah, it can take a while if you have to resilver it from a power loss. What time did I tell my wife I'm going somewhere? I have to look at. Let's see. I told my wife by 2 I'm going somewhere. I'm trying to figure out when I got to wind down the live stream. What will Crowdsec bring to pfSense? Will it only protect SSH, WF, or will it be full IP IDS for clients too? It only matters if you're opening things to the public. If you're not opening anything to the public, it doesn't make any difference. There's not a reason to run it. Hi, just wondering if there's a way to put TrueNAS on one NIC and TrueNAS apps on another NIC. Kind of. TrueNAS itself binds to all the network cards, but in the TrueNAS setup, you choose the interface for the apps. Which should be in settings, advanced settings. And you should be able to choose here the node IP, and it should work and bind to that address. I think. I'm not huge on the way the apps work in TrueNAS. There's a lot of shortcomings to them. Some of them are just the fact that things keep breaking in there. I don't like running a lot of the apps. It just is buggy. Like TrueNAS as a storage server is amazing. TrueNAS as an app server is buggy. And I get a lot of complaints because I did videos on it and people keep asking to do more videos, but they keep changing the interface. So my videos become irrelevant pretty quick on the apps. And then people are like, oh, the apps broke. I'm like, I know, they broke for me too. And when they break things, I don't know. They don't give you much information as to why they're broke. I think between Omada and UniFi, I would go UniFi. The price savings isn't there. And Omada, not a company with a commitment to security. That's I mean, they just don't save much money off the UniFi, and their documentation is not as good. Their security is lagging. So yeah, I don't think I would go with Omada. Storage topic, ZFS, still go to looking at some of the other options. Expansion drives me insane. Yeah, ZFS is my go-to. I mean, it works. It's very, very reliable. I don't expand. Oh, I can't say I don't expand often. I just move all the data from one server to another because I have enough servers that I always have 2 copies of all my data. Is it a pain? Yeah, I'm dealing with it right now. I got 30 terabytes. I'm shuffling back and forth because I want to reload one of the servers and rebuild it, but I got to shuffle all the data from where it is over there, and then I got to make 2 copies of the 30 terabytes of data, and then I got to rebuild the server, and then I got to copy the 30 terabytes of data back over. But it's all fun. Talking about drives, it took me 4 days to wipe 23 terabyte drives with a 3-pass. Do you have any recommended tool for multi-wipe drives? DoD? No, not really. I mean, there's tools out there for, what is that one, Shredder you can use. You can do 3 passes in Linux. There's not the store. 45 Drives makes their Destroyinator. They actually make a big box that will wipe them all simultaneously. So have to go. Pleasure to see you all here. Thanks, Tom, for the live stream. Great to see you have there. Thanks, Oliver. And I will be in touch. I'm interested in, of course, me and Oliver chat from time to time because we are obviously big supporters here at Lawrence Systems and now CNWR of the XCP-ng products. So excited, and I'll talk to you later. I'm using Unraid because ZFS expanding isn't feasible for a home setup. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. If that's your use case, then go with what works for you. Ghost devices. I don't know. I've seen them show up like that, and I don't know why. You just got to wait for some stuff to expire out of there. You can search. There's probably some way to push or force update the database to get them out. What NDAA camera would you recommend? There's not a lot on that list. Synology makes one. Synology makes a couple models. So Synology or Axis are probably your 2 big ones out there. Have you tried Unraid? Nope, I have no interest in Unraid. Unraid is definitely not as performance-oriented as your systems that it's not as performance-oriented as TrueNAS. It's also not ZFS. So I don't know if I trust it for long-time archival storage. I don't know it well enough to put my faith in it. But hey, how do you deal with updating firmware inside of an NAS? It's a pain, unless you have a Synology that does it for you. There's not an easy answer for that. Any security cameras, any security issues using ESXi 6.7 in a dev environment, trying to set up a network lab? I mean, that's pretty old. I imagine there's a ton of flaws in it, but someone has to be inside your network to exploit those flaws. So it's up to you and your risk tolerance. You know, do you have a tolerance to the risk that comes with that? That's up to you. Me, I don't. I don't run a bunch of old, outdated stuff because I don't like the risk of running the old things, and I don't have much interest in running the old things unless I have to, because I have to figure some weird puzzle out of how to figure out a migration path off an old server. Yeah, I know there's talk of Unraid supporting ZFS. The downside is if Unraid goes to ZFS, that also means they lose the ability to expand in the same easy way. So it'll be one of those like, hey, we have ZFS, but I want to use expansion. Oh, then keep using the way we use it. I think Tactical RMM is a novel project. I don't know what its status is today. I was interested in it when it first came out and seeing where they go with it, but I haven't really kept up with the development of it. Someone said it's available, and exactly why I won't be using it in Unraid. Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole challenge. Will it work? Will it do what you want it to do? That's what it comes down to. For data integrity reasons, extremely trust ZFS and not a lot of other file systems. And I have a lot of data that I keep spinning across mirrored systems that are off-site because I care about my data. Oh, you must be new to the channel because this question comes up a lot, and I'm all in on XCP-ng. Proxmox is fine. It makes a lot of people happy, but I'm partial to XCP-ng. You know, I seen this in forums. This is completely me reading in forums. There's a debate, as there always is, in the different forums like the VMware and the Homelab. And some people are really complaining about Proxmox having a lot of, because it's based on Debian, a lot of package updates that sometimes cause problems. I don't know. Jay from Learn Linux TV keeps his system very up to date and hasn't complained at all about any problems. Does anyone know if recent updates have caused breakage in Proxmox? I don't know the answer to this question. I'm asking because I know at least quite a few of you on this live stream right now are Proxmox users. New t-shirt. I don't use Proxmox, but you can. I don't use Proxmox, but you can use Proxmox. Yeah, I trust. So I take the things I see in forums with a grain of salt, or maybe a lot of salt, maybe a whole big thing of salt, because the problem I run into is I don't know the experience of that user versus someone like Jay or someone like Jeff from Craft Computing who runs Proxmox. They aren't complaining about it. So if they're not complaining about it, I don't think it's a problem because I trust both Jeff from Craft Computing and Jay from Learn Linux TV are very experienced in, sysadmins. So if there was a problem, they would talk about the problem. They would discuss it. These are people I talk to on a regular basis, and I've never heard them really bring it up in conversation. I'm going to ask them about it, but I think it's probably a non-issue, and it come down to some type of weird user experience or people doing weird things, because I run into that all the time where people are complaining about things, but the thing they're complaining about is because they set it up wrong. Going from 7 to 8, broke Docker in LXC. Okay. How much of a concern do you think old BIOS are on systems with pfSense? Do Heartbleed or any of those CPU vulnerabilities affect pfSense? They can be mitigated, but they're not really a BIOS issue. There's CPU microcode updates that fix those. But then again, some of these, especially the ones where the CPU ones specifically, are not likely to affect pfSense because they require someone to be on the machine to be able to extract things out of it. If they're on your machine, they're not going to go about it the hard way. If someone has root level access to your machine, they'll just read your SSH keys or anything they want out of it to get access. They don't need to extract it from memory through a vulnerability. Let's see. This is the other thing. A lot of people install way too many things, and that can break functionality. It's based on Debian, so people start sticking everything in it. I've seen people do the same thing. Like, it takes more effort to get things in XCP-ng, but I have certainly seen people do it, and I'm like, what are you doing? This is why it isn't working. You've decided to load a bunch of things that don't belong inside DOM0. I mean, be careful what you open up. Understand the risks when you open up the internet to your system. What do you think about a mixed UniFi and Juniper environment? Sure, it should work. Usual people have the problems with the drivers of bad hardware like Realtek, and then relates to many home users having a computer laying around they want to use as an enterprise server. Yeah, there's so many factors involved. Never had an issue with Proxmox. We use since 2009. We use the test repo for Proxmox VE. Can have some issues. Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's one of those things where like some of the problems I've had people reach out to me for consulting about Proxmox. What are those problems? They've done things that you shouldn't be doing. They have built an underpowered server with their Ceph set up, and they're like, oh, I can't get this to work, or it keeps hanging up. And I'm like, how many users? And they start explaining the workload on it. I'm like, you're running this level workload on your old Dell R610s. That's not feasible. There's a reason you have a problem here. And by the way, this goes all the way to people doing things dumb in VMware. We had a person trying to run like 30 or 40 VMs were complaining how slow they were. They had lagged together 2 ports and were running a whole bunch of VMs with 2 1 gig ports, not 10 gig, but the switch and the device both had 10 gig, but they had not set it up properly. So it doesn't, even in the enterprise world, we certainly do some consulting with large companies that we kind of help untangle what they did, or what sometimes someone else did and they inherited. That's usually what happens is the person who set it up is now gone, has been removed from that position, maybe forcibly. And then the next person comes in and goes, oh boy, look at this. Don't touch DOM 0. That's right. Should you treat it like an appliance? Yes. This is part of the problem, is not treating your VMs like an appliance. That's the double-edged sword of Proxmox. If you treat it like an appliance, I think it works fine. But then people go, ooh, apt-get install all the things. Wow, look at this. Oh no, it broke. Yes, layer 8 is the problem. Now, I might have to wind this down soon because I'm realizing I'm going to run out of voice soon. I'm almost amazed that I talk for these 2-hour sessions like this. It's hard to believe that I do this for a living now. That's the other part that entertains me. What else was I talking about that we can share? I shared the studio. What else do we have? Oh, this is kind of what brought this up for me. Where did it go? Because this was really not that long ago. This is what my studio, this is because I built this myself. This is what the studio looked like. I'm sitting roughly in front of where that ladder is. That's where my desk is. So yeah, it's kind of wild to look back and do all this, because when I do my updated studio tour, I'll probably include some of the old photos from like, this is how it started and this is where it is right now. It's been fun. What date was that? That was November of 2021 is when I started building it. And what is it? It's about almost 2024. I've been in this studio for almost 2 years. Well, it'll be 2 years in November of 2024. Another view from the other side. But yeah, there's a little window and stuff that you've seen in there. What is the current recommendation for 1 gig and 2.5 gig open pfSense box for home use? I'm partial to the Netgate boxes, but there's other ones out there that you can use. I know some people like the little Quotom boxes. Hold on, I got one. Let me show you. I need to do a video on this one because this is another one that, you know, this one's actually branded Quotom. And the problem with these devices is they kind of fail randomly. I don't know how else to describe the failure mode. I don't remember which one of these ports. So one of the ports died, just up and died and just quit working on us. But the other ports work fine and the device works fine. We've had this happen to a handful of them. I can't understand why, but I'm actually using one myself right now. This is being routed through one of these, and it's working fine and has been for years. We bought them at the same time. I think we bought 5 of them, and 2 of them just died, and I don't know why. But the way they died was the port just quit working. The other ports work. So I'm kind of mixed on how reliable those are. New question. My internet speed is less than a gigabit. My gateway LAN, I only plan 2.5 gig intensive switch. We bottlenecked at some point. My internet speed is only a gigabit. Well, I mean, if your internet speed's a gigabit, you don't really need a router that goes faster than a gigabit. I mean, you could get one that goes faster than a gigabit, but it doesn't have anywhere to go. Your choke point is your ISP. Internally, you can still, I mean, I have a 300 meg internet connection, but my internal network is 10 gig. Cheap AliExpress specials. Why I don't why I don't trust it. Yeah, it's just kind of goofy. My Protect Telequotom box failed. It just randomly can't read or write any SSDs I have in a box. Force reboot it once in a while. Yeah, they're just weird bugs. Don't do routing over that. That's the big thing. Don't mix that routing. But I'm going to end this here because I feel my voice getting hoarse. I don't want to lose it. I have, if I feel inspired enough, I'll record a video today because it's crappy outside and I don't want to do anything outside. I should do something outside. I should go outside some, and what do they say? Touch grass for happiness. But 2.5 hours. Now, good news for those of you that are wondering, I've been going backwards. I'm only going to go so far back because there's a cost to this, and updating all the time indexes to put everything together. I have an AI tool that's doing this. It's been pretty cool. So yes, I am slowly putting chapters in all of these. I'm gonna start saying at the beginning so people know that if you don't see chapters right away, it takes about 24 hours before the chapters can show up. But that's been kind of fun so people can kind of jump around and find things that are in here. But thanks everyone for joining. I don't know if I'll do this again tomorrow or not. I'm supposed to be smoking some food tomorrow. Smoking some meats and having a party, which may mean hanging out in the real world with people and some of my technical friends that are coming over my house. But if I don't do it tomorrow, Happy New Year, everyone. I'll be doing it next year for sure. So thanks and take care.